Whoops. Okay, so we'll go right here. Actions. All right, we'll type in stop. Go to the next one. Type in stop. And the third one. And we'll type in stop. Okay, so pretty orderly, but there's quite a few steps, so it's not that easy. And this is the one that you're going to do on the test. Okay, so we've got ourselves set up. Now, the last part. Now this is where you got to really pay attention, because this is the part that usually, if you're going to screw up some part, it's going to be on this one. Those aren't too bad. All right, so we've added that last layer called actions, and we've added stops to all the different parts. Okay, now what we're going to do is on each keyframe, as we go along here in a second, we're basically going to show the computer what the menu is at that moment in time. Okay, so at the very beginning, obviously, we're going to see all three menus. Maybe later on number 2, there's going to be a couple of new things in here, but they won't show up when you're on the first one or on the third one. They'll only show up when you're on the second one. Now, at the beginning, you're going to see all three just in their top form, and what we're going to do is at that moment we're going to add some code. Now we've got to do it individually. So this first one here, if you're on here, when you click here, it's going to move to playhead number 1. If you're on here, it's going to move to number 2, and obviously if you're on here, you're going to move to number 3. So you've got to do some actions. Okay, and you go like that, and on release, we're going to go to and play, and then in quotes, 1. All right, I'm going to copy and paste this because we're going to basically do the same thing 3 times. So I'm going to try to save myself a bit of time. Now make sure you're on here. All right, don't be anywhere else. You're right at the beginning. So now you go to the second one, and you're still on here. Actions, and then we'll just paste it in. But when you're on the number 2, obviously you want to go to number 2. All right, and then again, make sure you're on here. And I keep doing this because sometimes when I've done it before, I've accidentally gone to another section. You got to make sure you're on there. Okay, and press Control V, and we change this one to 3. Okay, now here's the neat thing I'm going to show you. Now, if you do that right at the beginning, because now what we've got to do is basically do the same thing here, here, and here. Well, there's a trick that's going to save us. All you got to do is, once all the coding is done for the first frame, you go to frame 10 and you press F6. Go to frame 20, press F6. Go to frame 30 and press F6. And what's happened, and I'll show you, I'll go to frame 1 for a sec. And we'll click on one of these, for instance. And the coding is in there. So it saves you having to retype it, because you'd have to do it for every single one if you didn't know this trick. Okay? So that's the first thing. Now, one thing that's going to be like the reverse of what I just showed you. You're going to go now to number 1. And when you're on number 1, you don't have to go to number 1 because you're already there. So, I mean, this is a waste. So you erase this one. When you're on number 2, you obviously don't have to go to number 2, so you erase that one. And when you're on number 3, you don't have to go to number 3. Okay, so put yourself on number 3. And click down here and erase that one. Okay, so we're getting there. All right, now, like I said, at any moment in time, you want the computer to see what it's going to be like when you're at that spot. Okay, so when you're at the beginning, it looks good. When you're here, it looks good. When you're here, I'm going to do something different. All right, when you're here, I'm going to have a sub-menu. And you can put words there. How about if I draw 2 little boxes? And I'll draw one in, I don't know, green. Put a little box here. And I'll draw another one in, I don't know, this color, whatever that color is. Okay, now they're not buttons yet, right? So they're going to be like buttons. Next, I'm going to click twice. And remember, you got to be on here. Okay, make sure you're there, because that's what you're supposed to look at that moment. And you go to Modify, Convert to Symbol, and we'll do Button. Okay. and I'll call it choice 2A. So that's a button. Double click on that one a little bit, convert to symbol, choice 2B. Alright, so now we got two buttons. Now if you're not sure what's happening, watch. Alright, so they're only going to appear at that moment. And why don't we save this, because you start getting nervous when you start doing all this work, you don't want to lose it. Let's just preview it for a sec, see what we've got going here. So there, if you press down, there's the two buttons, and then you go over here, they disappear. You're there again, up here, disappear. So hopefully that's what yours is doing if you're following along with me. Okay, let's go back into the world of the movie clip. And so now that's basically how you make those things work. Now, how do you actually activate them? How do you get them to do what they're supposed to do? All right. Well, I did two types on purpose. This one right here, okay, and it doesn't matter exactly where, but let's go right here. Okay, so this one right here, basically, when you press it, there's no other submenu. So where do you put the code? Because there's code already here. Or is there? No, there's nothing there. So where am I going to put it? Well, when you have a button that has no submenu, what you do is you add the code to the frame. So right up here, and you got to make sure you're on one, right? Like you can't do it over here. You got to do it right there. And you're going to say, but sir, it has a stop there. How can you add code? Yeah, you can add code. It'll stop it right there and then play the next line. And you do whatever you want. You can load a movie, for instance, all right, or a movie clip. Now, to do that, you got to remember what we did a couple days ago, all right, and let's do that right now. Let's insert a new symbol. It's going to be a movie, and we'll just call it object for now, all right. Now, you know it goes over here, right? So what you're going to do with this little thing is you're going to move it right about there, and we're going to call it clip. And that'll come in handy in a second. Okay, so now let's go back into the movie world. And like I said, put yourself right here. Okay, click. So when you're on here, you're going to click on the action script. And I don't know if you remember this command, really good command, load movie, and then quotes. And you got to look, think of a movie or a thing that you've got on the drive. Now I know for a fact that we have an image called SJB Spring JPEG, which is in the same directory you saved this program. That's why I wanted you to save it here. And then this other part, you go like this. Remember this root.clip. Okay, now let's see if this actually works. Okay, so when you press this, you put the code on the frame, not inside that. And there it is. Now I'm a little bit off because I didn't make the screen big enough, but you get the basic idea. Okay, and there's these other ones. And you're saying, sir, hey, the picture's not going away. I'm going to show you in the last example. To do this totally properly, you have to also do that command called unload movie. All right, I don't know if you remember that command, but I'll wrap this up by showing you some real completely finished example, and it was that one called drop down menu I did at the beginning of this lesson. Okay, let's sneak in to this one. Okay, now this one, when there's a submenu, the rule changes. When there's a submenu, you don't put it in the frame. You put it directly on one of these guys. So let's pretend I wanted to put some code here. All right, then you do that basic stuff you do for any button on release. Okay, and then, well, you don't want to say go to and play. Let's actually have it load up something. So let's do another one of those load movie commands. And this one, I think I've got something called SJB 9.swf, shockwave flash file. It's just an old opening we used to use on our website. And then you do this other part where you go root clip, semicolon. And let's see if that actually works. So if you press there, you get that. Press there, you get a submenu. And when you press this, you get that opening. It's way off screen, obviously, and I have to fix that up. But then you get the basic idea. Okay, and then you're back to that. And that's how you make drop-down movies. Now, it's really up to your imagination how cool and slick you want to do them. As you go over some of these movies, you could have them sliding in and sliding out. I just have them just sort of show up there. But there's all kinds of cool effects you can do. But that's the basic idea. Now, like I said, to finish up, let me just save this one more time. Do you remember this one right here? Okay, and when we play it, you press this, and it sort of comes in, all right? And when you press this one, another thing comes in, and this comes in. So again, just to show you the code again for that, remember this one here, for the SJB opening, the code would be probably right there, okay? And see how I said unload movie first, and then load whatever movie you want to play, and the other one's for the text, right? Okay, so you just got to make sure you put it in the right spot. And that's the basic idea. Kind of a cool example. This is the one that's on the test. You're basically going to do a little program, not this many things obviously, but you'll do a little thing like this, and you'll have to make a movie clip little instance, and you'll shoot things about certain I think I want you to do things about cities. So you'll show a picture of the city and some information about the city, and that's all going to be done practically on the computer in one period. Okay, so you got to feel comfortable doing what I just did.